Something I've seen a lot in my comments section is people stating that I don't address the real issues of Battlefield 5, that I slide past issues like wacky soldier customization in a World War II setting, and that I'm not commenting on the presence of female soldiers in non-traditional roles, and that the British faction is fighting the Germans in Rotterdam when the British barely had any kind of presence there at all at that point in time. Now, the reason I'm not addressing those things is because, quite honestly, I don't care. It doesn't bother me in the slightest that female soldiers are playing a part in frontline fighting. It doesn't bother me at all that soldiers don't look like quintessential World War II soldiers that you've seen in the history books. And it certainly doesn't bother me what kind of forces I'm representing when I take part in battles either. The reason I don't care is because this is a video game, and I don't expect it to be a one-to-one representation of historic battles that were fought decades ago. The fact that the game supports an infinite number of respawns for the same soldier who was just shot, and allows you out of thin air to construct cover and pull ammo out of your asshole, should be enough to indicate to you that this game takes some creative liberties where it needs to, and where it wants to, in order to deliver an experience that is both engaging and entertaining for the people actually playing. That to me says that the dev team is prioritising your gameplay experience. They're putting it first and trying to offer you something that's enjoyable for you to play, as opposed to forcing you to try and work with systems that would not end in a good gameplay experience. Could you imagine if there were no support players in Battlefield 5, no way for you to get any more ammo than what you spawned with? I mean, that's kind of the issue with attrition at the moment, but I think the point remains. If there weren't support players handing out ammo, it wouldn't be a great experience, but those things are in the game because it makes the game more enjoyable to play, and overall, people play video games to have fun. If the game wasn't fun, people wouldn't play it. However, I am aware that my opinion does not represent the Battlefield community as a whole at the moment, and based on feedback, DICE is adjusting their stance to make sure the game is something that the entire audience can be happier with. The move they've recently announced appears to try and find a middle ground between people like myself, who are more than happy for soldier customization to be free of traditional shackles, and other players who see the misrepresentation of armies and soldiers fighting in this game that depicts the biggest conflict the planet has ever seen as disrespectful. Disrespectful to the actions that those people took in real life, laying down their lives on the line to give us the world that we have today. Now, if you aren't aware, the current soldier or avatar customization sections in Battlefield 5 are as follows. You can customize the head, face paints, helmet or headgear, upper torso, lower torso, legs and boots. The head portion, that offers you different looks and also allows you to choose your gender, male or female soldier. Now, during the post-show for the Battlefield 5 Beta Squads event that happened last weekend, an interesting topic arose between community manager Dan Mitri and producer Andrew Galotta around soldier customization and the appearances we saw in the reveal trailer for Battlefield 5. I've got the segment of the live stream here. It's a couple of minutes in length, and I've cut it up so that the relevant parts are available to you, but it sets out DICE's revised vision for Battlefield 5 customization at the launch of this game.
Can I raise a hand?
Yeah.
Okay, so back at the reveal trailer, we saw some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, we did.
Okay?
Yeah.
The community's like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see that massively crazy customization items.
No, we heard
Did you guys
the community.
change it? Did you guys adapt from that?
We didn't. We're still looking at World War II through the lens of DICE's lens, right? Like but how forward, how crazy we got with some of that. We heard the community. We understand there were some concerns about, hey, where's the authenticity? And so we want players to be excited about customizing your characters with authentic gear, right? So it's going to look pretty awesome. Yeah. Like, look at even this guy right here. It looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then now imagine as you continue to change and modify with the hat and the helmet and face paint, and you add different looks.
So that's cool. So you guys heard the feedback.
Yeah.
You kind of went back to the, not went back all the way to the drawing board, but you were like, okay,
we dialed it back a bit, right? Like it was pretty crazy. There were a lot of things out there. So for this, we wanted to make sure that we're offering some authenticity to it.
Okay.
And that's important to us. It's important to our players, the community. Is it possible? Nothing's off the table. I think we'll watch how the community reacts, how players, maybe we'll try something.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, the nice thing with something like the Armory is that we can put something out there. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. But first and foremost, we want to start with this authenticity approach.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I think it's pretty clear then that from that video clip, feedback around more outlandish customization of soldiers in Battlefield 5 was heard by the development team. Those looks that you saw in the reveal trailer, and more recently in the company trailer, where for some reason DICE decided to put those dress-ups right back in front of people again, you won't be seeing those extreme examples in Battlefield 5 at launch, and DICE is scaling things back to hit a more authentic feeling. In my opinion, I think this is a good move from the development team. Despite them having to compromise on their initial direction, in doing so they're trying to make sure that people who were interested in this game but didn't like that wacky cosmetic customization now don't feel their experience is being spoiled by other soldiers running around in outfits that don't feel authentic to the World War II setting. Considering the amount of backlash that was created by the initial showing at the reveal of the game, I am still surprised that it took DICE this long, over 4 months now, to change their stance on this issue. This must have been quite a recent decision as well, because during my interview with Alex Grondal, he's the executive producer for the Battlefield franchise, I interviewed him at Gamescom, he remained pretty firm on the dev team's decision to include these more wacky options. And we also had the company trailer not long ago, which many of the same characters were used as the reveal trailer. Perhaps DICE chose to stick to their guns in the early days, but as time has gone on, the feedback's still pouring in from the community that they didn't feel the soldiers fitted into the World War II setting. They decided it would be better for the launch of the game to scale things back a little bit and move towards more authentic soldier clothing. Now, as for the inclusion of female soldiers in non-traditional roles, that doesn't appear to be changing at all, and I don't expect it to either. The general manager of DICE, Oscar Gabrielson, stated not long after the reveal of Battlefield 5 that the studio would stand behind their decision to include female soldiers in that way. There is something from that video clip, however, that I would like to focus on for a second. I showed you Andrew Galotta towards the end. He states that the revised direction will be the starting point, and through the Armory, there will be a chance for DICE to drop in exploratory items throughout the game's life to kind of test the waters. Without knowing the details of what these items would actually be, I'd like to offer up my own suggestion that I think most fans of the game could get behind here. I'd like to see DICE offer up full-body character clothing options that represent different figures from the war, with some historical context to their appearance. Perhaps we see some full paratrooper outfits in there for unlock, different outfits that represent different battalions of the British Army, or perhaps even extend that into the German and Axis faction as well, bringing some authentic outfits that were worn by German soldiers in the early war period. If these kind of options were available alongside the now revised and scaled back options that DICE has already shown off, I think more people would be interested to customize their soldiers, rather than simply complaining right now that the customization is just too outlandish. If some of the standard uniforms of the Axis and Allied powers were included from the get-go, I think overall you'd see some reduction in the conversation around wacky customization in general. Now, as I said to you at the start of this video, this entire issue of wacky cosmetic customization was never an issue for me in the first place. I saw it as an opportunity for players to create a unique character for each class and combat role that they had, and it offered DICE a way to keep the game fresh, with lots of different cosmetics to unlock at the launch of the game, and more coming as part of the Tides of War live service, when new armies and new theatres get added in. I mean, for example, I can see the Pacific Theatre being added later down the line, and some of the items there would make the game look vastly different to the European theatre where we're starting. The Russian involvement in the war as well, that could offer some really interesting looks. And the end of the war, as the Allied forces closed in on Berlin, I could see some really awesome, tattered, worn-out German uniforms coming into play. I mean, the possibilities are really endless within the scope of World War II. But as I mentioned, I do overall think it's a good move from DICE for the game at launch to be focused more so on authenticity and then testing the waters later on. If at that point, later on, things are still the same, the community doesn't want these kind of cosmetics in the game, then I'm sure more feedback will end up pouring in. At the end of the day here, we do have to consider that DICE's system for funding future development of Battlefield 5 is going to be through microtransactions on cosmetic items, like soldier uniforms, weapon skins, the weapon attachments that change the look of the weapon but not the statistics, and vehicle cosmetic customization as well. This means there will be a steady stream of cosmetics regardless, and I think now DICE has heard the feedback from the community that they're currently not in favour of wacky and outlandish. I think the focus needs to be on more traditional and authentic items for the launch and the months after, before they can test the waters again. So there you are. There will be some scale back of customization when it comes to soldiers in Battlefield 5. Feedback was heard, although I'm now questioning the timing the feedback was acted on. For me, this could have come much, much earlier in Battlefield 5's life, and it would have saved EA and DICE a hell load of negative response from a segment of the community. Perhaps this is a lesson to be learned. Thank you very much for watching today. Let me know your thoughts below. I'm sure there will be plenty of passionate responses down there today. Make sure you get your points in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications switched on. Click that little bell next to subscribe and make sure they are on. That way you won't miss any of my future videos. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.